The Maid Who Stayed. The afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of the Harrison mansion, casting golden light across the pristine white furniture. In the elegant living room, a young woman with braided blonde hair sat on the cream-colored sofa, her arms wrapped gently around a small girl with tousled hair and bright blue eyes. Near the doorway, a man in a perfectly tailored navy suit watched them with quiet amazement. This was not what James Harrison had expected to find when he returned home early from his business meeting. For 3 years, ever since his wife passed away, James had struggled to find reliable help for his 5-year-old daughter, Emma. The little girl had a reputation that traveled quickly through the network of domestic agencies in the city. She was sweet enough, but she had driven away 17 different caretakers with her elaborate schemes and stubborn behavior. The pattern was always the same. A new nanny or maid would arrive, full of confidence and professional training. Within days, sometimes hours, they would find themselves overwhelmed by Emma's creative mischief. She had hidden car keys in the garden fountain, switched sugar with salt during important dinner parties, and once convinced a particularly stern governess that the house was haunted by making mysterious sounds through the old intercom system. James understood his daughter's behavior, even if it exhausted him. Emma was testing everyone who came into their home, searching for someone who wouldn't abandon her like so many others had. Her mother's death had left a hole that seemed impossible to fill, and each departing caretaker only deepened her fear of being left alone. Then, 3 weeks ago, Sarah Mitchell had knocked on their door. Sarah was different from the beginning. She was young, probably in her mid-20s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile that never seemed forced. When the agency had called to recommend her, James had been skeptical. Her resume was impressive enough. She had studied child development and had worked with several families, but she lacked the stern authority that he thought Emma might need. On Sarah's first day, Emma had launched into her usual routine. She had hidden Sarah's shoes, rearranged all the furniture in the playroom, and announced that she only ate food that was blue. James had watched from his home office, waiting for the inevitable phone call to the agency. But Sarah had surprised them both. Instead of growing frustrated, she had walked around the house barefoot, calling out compliments about Emma's furniture arrangement skills. She had calmly prepared a lunch of blueberry pancakes, blue corn chips, and blueberry yogurt, then sat down to eat with Emma as if dining on blue food was the most natural thing in the world. Emma had stared at her new caretaker with confusion and growing curiosity. Over the following days, Sarah continued to respond to Emma's tests with patience and creativity. When Emma claimed she could only sleep in a tent, Sarah helped her build an elaborate blanket fort in the bedroom. When Emma insisted that all her clothes had to be worn backwards, Sarah showed up the next morning with her own shirt on backwards, explaining that it was Backwards Wednesday, and they should celebrate properly. Slowly, Emma's challenges became less frequent and less extreme. She began to test Sarah in gentler ways, asking for unusual snacks or requesting elaborate bedtime stories. Sarah met each request with enthusiasm, turning their days into adventures rather than battles of will. James had watched this transformation with growing amazement and gratitude. For the first time since his wife's death, his daughter seemed genuinely happy. Emma laughed more, played more freely, and had even started talking about her mother without the deep sadness that usually clouded her eyes. But it was what James witnessed today that truly moved him. He had come home early to find Emma curled against Sarah's side on the living room sofa, both of them looking peaceful and content. Sarah was reading softly from a storybook, her voice gentle and soothing. Emma's eyes were half closed, not with tiredness but with the deep relaxation of a child who felt completely safe. And the little princess realized, Sarah was reading, that sometimes the people who stay are the ones who choose to see your heart instead of your walls. Emma looked up at Sarah with a sleepy smile. "Sarah," she said quietly, "are you going to stay with us?" "Really stay?" Sarah's voice was tender as she replied, "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. This is where I belong." James felt his throat tighten with emotion. In that simple exchange, he heard something he hadn't heard in his daughter's voice for 3 years, genuine trust. Over the past weeks, Sarah had done more than just care for Emma. She had seen through the difficult behavior to the frightened, lonely little girl underneath. She had met Emma's challenges not with authority or frustration, but with understanding and creativity. Most importantly, she had shown Emma that love didn't always leave, As James stood in the doorway, watching his daughter rest peacefully in Sarah's arms, he understood that Sarah had accomplished something truly remarkable. She hadn't just survived Emma's tests, she had transformed them into opportunities for connection and healing. Emma had stopped driving people away because she no longer needed to. She had found someone who chose to stay, not despite her difficult behavior, but because she understood the fear and love behind it. The house felt different now. It felt like a home again. The careful quiet that had dominated their lives since his wife's death had been replaced by the gentle sounds of daily life. Emma's laughter, Sarah's patient voice, the comfortable rhythm of two people who genuinely cared for each other. James cleared his throat softly to announce his presence. Both Sarah and Emma looked up, their faces brightening with welcome rather than the guarded tension he had grown accustomed to seeing in his daughter's eyes. "Daddy," Emma called out, though she didn't move from her comfortable position against Sarah's side. "Sarah was reading me the princess story. The princess found someone who stayed." James met Sarah's eyes over his daughter's head, seeing the warm understanding there. In that moment, he knew that their family had found something precious, not just a caretaker for Emma, but someone who had brought healing and happiness back into their home. "That sounds like a very good story," James said softly, his heart full of gratitude for the young woman who had seen his daughter's need for love and had chosen to answer it with patience, creativity, and an unshakable commitment to stay. In the golden afternoon light, surrounded by the peace that Sarah had brought to their home, James finally believed that they were going to be okay. Emma had found what she had been searching for all along, someone who would love her enough to stay, no matter what walls she built or tests she created. And in Sarah's gentle arms, his little girl was finally, truly safe.